Good morning, everyone. You're very welcome to this morning's Skillnet briefing. We're just going to wait another couple of seconds for people to register and log in. To log in. Okay, I think we'll start. This is a very popular webinar. So as I said, there are people still logging into us here now this morning. Well, just to say good morning to everybody. My name is Aisha Thompson from Osborne, and I'm the chair of the ERF Skillnet. And we are absolutely delighted this morning to have this webinar in conjunction with Visa First, and Nune Troy is joining us and is going to share with us all of her knowledge in relation to all visa related topics. We are delighted to have approximately 300 people online with us this morning from various locations. So that just shows the enormity and the importance of this topic to us all and in our everyday lives. And we were just talking about how quickly how the information changes and sometimes can be hard to keep updated with it as well. So as I say, I know that's why this webinar is so popular this morning. So as I say, we're delighted to have you all with us. Just a couple of housekeeping notes, if I may. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A. We will try to get to as many of them as we can. But if we don't get to them all, and I don't know that we will, but we will certainly try. Nune is going to share her contact details with you all at the end of the session, and then you can maybe reach out to her directly. Also, we would ask during the webinar for your feedback. So any reactions, positive, or any thoughts, any reactions you want to share with us as well, please do so. And we obviously always welcome the feedback in these type of webinars as well. So as I said, we are delighted to be delighted by Nune Troy here this morning. Nune has a background in employment service and global mobility. And her journey throughout this has given her a keen understanding on the potential that diverse workforces hold and the crucial role of global mobility. Nune is a representative of Visa First, a company known for simplifying Irish employment permits and international corporate visas. Nune understands the impact that diverse perspectives can have on shaping vibrant and innovative workplaces. Her journey has led her to believe that a harmonious blend of cultures, talents, and ideas are not only beneficial for individual growth, but integral to driving organizational success for an ever-evolving world. Through insights and stories, she views a professional landscape where mobility is not just about physical relocation, but also about the exchange of ideas and experience that enhance the collective knowledge of teams and organizations. And we're very much delighted to hear all of your insights this morning, Nune. So if you're ready, I'll hand over to you, if that's okay.
Yeah, thanks so much. Hope you can hear me clear. Thanks, Aisha, and good morning, everyone. Pleasure to see everyone's here. I know that people start coming. Just cannot imagine that this event will be an in-person event. That will be great to see everyone. And also delighted to work with Employment and Recruitment Federation of Ireland, and of course, very, very excited to have this opportunity to guide you through today's webinar. When I was planning this event with the ELF, I was told that there were so many inquiries regarding visas, permits, and I totally understand as we see that there are the growing numbers of international talents coming into Ireland, and the massive potential that they bring to the workforce. And these talents can also help fill the labor shortages over the last years, and also these numbers are for many industries to drive innovation and also the progress for the economy. So, however, for recruitment and HR professional and even employer yourself who stand at the forefront of the hiring process, there must be crucial questions going through the head, and you would like that to be answered. For example, do the potential candidate need visa and permit? And is visa and permit the same? And what are the conditions that they must meet? What the paperwork involved? How long the process would take? How can you ensure that they will get on board as quickly as possible? And if they are already in Ireland, can they change permission without leaving the country? So these questions would be complicated consideration that define international recruitment process. So today's webinar will be designed for providing you with the insights and strategy to handle these complexity. When I say complexity, I understand that it is complex. I've been through that myself, relocating to Ireland, preparing the visa applications and all the paperwork, and have been experiencing all the steps regarding to the immigration. So by the end of this session, I hope that you will understand more of the Irish immigration permission to work, the unique employment condition, different stamps, and also effective communication techniques that when you work with international talents or candidates. So I will going to share my slides. I have my slides coming up.
Yes, we can see that now, Nune.
Okay. So, sorry guys. So these are the feature content. So I will start from showing you guys a snapshot of the numbers of the stats from the departments, and also the overview of the common categories of the permission to work, the employment permits, what are the types that are available for international talents when you hire from here, and also when you hire from the ones that are in Ireland, and some of the employment rules and the condition as well, and the process itself, so that you will understand the timeline, that like how long that you need to plan ahead for this process before getting them on board. And this is the real pen, which is labor market needs states. That's simply called the position advertisements for general employment permits, and also best practice for recruiters, and also the useful resources for you to get access when you want to hire someone from abroad. I will share you what kind of the data that you can save, and it's be handy for you to have it on your laptop, or even like print them out. So these are the numbers that we've seen over the last years. So there's so many years, so I give you examples since 2019 until now. So the recent one will be until the end of August. You can see that there's a number increase between 2021 and 2022 as post-COVID, and also expansion in the tech industry, and also the other industry as well that experience skill shortage. And we anticipate ourselves that the number will grow up until 31,000 if it still grow the same level so far. So that's the number that we anticipate. So that's still nearly the last year, and it also showed a significant increase from 2019. So far 20,000 permits issued for international talents. So the reason why it's a little bit of drop is that the unemployment rate is lower to 4.1% as well, regarding to the updates in July 2023. But there are still shortages, like you as employer and also recruiter notice that there are industry that will need labor. And these are categorized from the nationality. So over the long period of time, India has been the top industry that relocating to Ireland. And also we see that they have the skill, they have the experience in the tech industry, in the IT industry, and pharmaceutical as well. And also that you can see interesting number in Brazilian and South African. The reason why it's popular is that these two nationalities, and also others as well, there's some other nationalities as well that will not need visa to come in. And I will explain about this to you later. that like, okay, they don't need visa, and what's the benefit? Why the number is high? The other reason is that Brazilians tend to come to Ireland to study English or the other courses. So when they come in, finish their courses or finish their degree, they find a job after that. So it became the top 2-3 countries that come into Ireland the most. And by sector, economic sector, last year, obviously, tech industry increased around 135%. This year, however, it showed that it drops to around 55%. However, so far in 2023, there's a big increase in healthcare, and one of the reasons that I think is last year, by the end of last year, the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment announced the eligible role. They include more role to be eligible for employment permits. So one of that is healthcare roles. And also, we all know, you might notice this beginning of this year as well, that there was the labor, again, huge shortages in health industry, and it's still an ongoing situation. And the other industry that is very interesting is that the hospitality. We expect to see an increase. Sorry, where's my slides? So I expect to see an increase in hospitality because I think last couple of months, sorry, my slide's gone. In hospitality, we expect to see the number of the employee from abroad to increase because last couple of months, there was a public consultation from the government. Basically, they announced for the employer and also the public sectors, any interested party to send feedbacks, what roles you want to include in eligible role. So that's why I really look forward to that as well. And before I start the next couple of slides about the type of employment permit for permanent role, I like to clarify this first, that like when people come in and ask us that like, we need a visa for our candidate, we need you to sort out visa for our employee, we want to extend the visa. So you might think that visa is the only thing for people to work here. So there's two separate things for a candidate to be able to work or an employee to be able to work. Some might need both, some might need just one. So employment permit is the right to work, while visa is the right to enter the country. So once, let's say you have a candidate from India, they will need employment permit, and then they cannot just enter the country without the visa. They will need to apply for the visa from the Irish embassy in their home country and then can enter Ireland. And there are steps after that. And again, I explain that to you later. And these are the common categories of permission to work in Ireland. So you might have seen these three categories before. These are the top three, or can be top three or top two as well. I will share it to you in a few minutes here. So it's the critical skill employment permit, general employment permit, a typical working scheme. These are the top common one that employers and also a visa for spouse see from partner companies that we work with. It would be usually critical skill or general employment permits. The rest that I will give you example that there are permission types to work in Ireland. It would be working holiday authorization, students or graduates, and other status that has working rights in Ireland. For example, spouse of a citizen, spouse of European nationals. So these are the example of status. So what next would be the category and its conditions. So I will give you an example of the common one that we see the most, and that would be also the type of the permit that you would use for your potential candidate and employee as well, if you want to hire them long term. When I say long term, I mean more than 6 months, or certain role, it has to be 2 years. So critical skill, general employment permit, and a typical working scheme. I have to apologize in advance because this slide is going to be a little bit long because it's very important, and I just want to give you as much as possible. So hopefully it will be helpful to you by the end of this slide. So critical skill designed for most of the professional that had high skill, for example, in the tech industry, in finance, in pharmaceutical, accountancy. There could be software engineer, for example, even construction as well. Let's say it's a designer, so they could fit into critical skills. Minimum salary for critical skill permit holder would require 32,000 for certain role, otherwise has to be 64,000 per year. Spouse and dependent, this is a good thing, so they can bring their spouse, their wife, their husband, their dependents to come with them, to come to Ireland with them straight away after they get the permit. So this is a good thing, is the plus side of critical skill employment permit. It's valid for 2 years. Another good thing about this permit is that the holder of this permit, after they've been holding for 21 months, they will be eligible to apply for stamp 4. So I will explain to you also again what is stamp 4 and why it can be benefits for both employee and employers. So another good thing for critical skills, a lot of plus sides here. So there's no advertisement required, save time, save a little bit of cost as well. However, they need resident permit card. I explain at the end of the slides what is ERF card, resident permit card. In the other side, general employment permit will be other roles that is not included in eligible list. I share to you what are the lists like. They can be actually, general employment permit can be those roles that in the critical skill list, but they don't meet the salary requirements. Let's say you hire someone in the critical skill list, the roles that list in critical skill, but the salary would be lower than that. So that will fit into general employment permits. And again, they can bring their spouse, they can bring their dependents only if there's been holding, they have been employed for 1 year, so they can bring the spouse after a year that they hold general employment permit. And the permit is valid up to 2 years. This one is different because the contract can be 6 months, the contract can be a year. So they can hold the permits, and this permit can be issued for 6 months or a year as well, but it's up to 2 year maximum, and it can be renewable. They will be eligible for stamp 4, but take a little bit longer. It will be after 5 years, and then they can apply for stamp 4. And yes, they need to advertise, and I will explain to you later on what are the labor market needs state and why it needs to be done and what are the requirements. I'll explain to you about this as well. Resident permit card, yes, they will need to apply for a resident permit card. The third type of permission, it will be a typical working scheme. A typical working scheme designed for short-term employment. And when I say short-term, I'm talking about maximum 90 days. There might be roles that would be longer than 90 days, but the employer will have to sort out with the departments, sending the letters, include providing more paperwork. In terms of salary and the number is that they will need to get national minimum salary, Irish minimum salary threshold. So there would not be like the bold, the exact amount of like they need to get 30,000 euro a year. No, not like that, but need to meet national minimum salary. Spouse cannot come here with them while they're holding this. Dependent cannot come in up to 90 days, up to 3 months, and also not eligible for stamp 4. Advertisement will not be required. No need to apply for resident permit card because it's less than 90 days. So resident permit card is basically, I explained to you before this, that you need an employment permit, you need a visa to come in, and once you enter the visa, once you get the visa and enter Ireland, you will need to apply for IRP card, Irish Residence Permit card. Why? Because that visa is a stamp or sticker that stick on the passport page. It will not be a long-term stay. It will be only entry. So it might allow you to stay up to 90 days. So most of the case will be up to 90 days. So they will have time to apply for Irish resident permit card. Resident permit card is a long stay. It could be a year, it could be 2 years, depending on the officers, depending on the immigration. So let's say they come into Ireland, apply for IRP card. The card will be like, the front will be their ID, like ID card, like passport card. But at the back, it will show the condition of stay. They can work, but they cannot do this. What they can do, the condition. But the important thing is that the type of stamp. Now I say stamp, there'll be, you might have heard before, stamp 1, stamp 1G, stamp 4, stamp 3. I will explain to you after these slides as well why these are so important. I explain to you after that. But yes, resident permit card, basically we call IRP card, that will show what type of stamp that they've been permitted to stay in this country long term, like a year or 2, or it can be renewable. And next, okay, these are the different stamps that I was trying to explain to you. So the stamps, different stamp, there's so many stamps for the permission in Ireland, but I will give you example for that most of the case that you would see, or you probably have seen before. I will start with stamp 1. So stamp 1 will be for Irish employment permit holder will be your employee, and that hold Irish employment permits, and they need to get, like I told you before, they need to get employment permits, and then visa, and then this stamp, apply for stamp 1. They will be eligible for stamp 1, and it can be renewed if the employment permit is still valid. Stamp 1 is also for working holiday authorization. This scheme, this permission is for those young people between 18 to 35 or 30, depending on nationality. They come here and they can work, and they can work for a year, except for Canadian that they can work for 2 years. So once they're here, of course, they stay longer than 90 days. They will need to apply for IRP card. So they will hold stamp 1. And again, working holiday authorization holder, they can work for a year, but they cannot get a permit while they are in Ireland. If you have been hiring someone with this scheme, with the working holiday maker, and you see the potential that, like, oh, we want to hire you longer than this, we give you employment permits. That process cannot be done while they're in the country, so they have to leave, and then employment permits can be submitted. So it's a little bit of pain. Another type for individuals that can hold stamp 1 is those who start a business here in Ireland or self-employed. They can hold stamp 1. The other stamp that's very, very popular this month, especially, and also this year, I see that it's September, so there's a lot of graduates. So Stamp 1G. Stamp 1G is for graduates who finish their degree, bachelor, master's, PhD, and wants to stay in Ireland longer to find a career path, to find a job. So they can stay up to 2 years, but it's not all that can stay up to 2 years. So bachelor graduates will be granted for 12 months. They can hold Stamp 2. So let me go back again. Students, they hold Stamp 2, like student visas, student stamp. But once they are graduates, they will hold Stamp 1G. So they have to apply for Stamp 1G, and they will be granted for 12 months. On the other hand, master and PhD graduates, they can hold for the initial 12 months, but they can renew that Stamp 1G for another 12 months. So that means they will have 24 months. I'll give you an example. We have, I was in a meeting actually with a candidate of our clients, and he's been holding Stamp 1G, bachelor degree graduates, and due to expire by the end of this year. So the employer see the potential. He works in IT, so see the potential. So basically, either he go back home or find other routes to stay longer in Ireland, either work, either if he has a spouse, European citizen or Irish citizen, or other type of stamp, or find a job. So he's in the job already, but the employer see potential. So the employer offer him another contract, a permanent contract that he can stay longer. So what we can do is that we can help him change from Stamp 1G to Stamp 1. Stamp 1 is for employment permit holder. Because at the moment, Stamp 1G, those who hold Stamp 1G can work without employment permit for 12 months or 24 months until it's almost expired. You have to decide, either employer have to decide, what are you going to do? Are you going to get employment permit or not? If you are going to get employment permit, you need Stamp 1. So good thing about Stamp 1G, what I was trying to say is that they can work for 12 months, 24 months without employment permit, and then they can change to Stamp 1 and hold employment permit. So it's a pathway to get a permit for Stamp 1G holders. So as employer or recruiters, you can advise them that, what's your expiry date here? Do you have time to process employment permit? I explain you later how long would it take for each step. So you will have that in mind when you plan ahead with your candidate or your current employees that hold Stamp 1G. Stamp 1G is for also for spouse or partner of critical permit holders. So back to Stamp 1 is for critical skill permit holder and general employment permit. If they have if they have spouse, for critical permit holder, if they have spouse, those spouse or partners, they can hold Stamp 1G. And good thing about this Stamp 1G for spouse and partner of critical skill permit holder is that they can work and they don't have to get employment permits. So these are things that you might need to you can target them as well for when you looking for candidate. The next one is Stamp 3. Stamp 3 is for spouse and partners, again, for employment permit holder. That's not critical skill permit holder. It could be for critical permit holder as well. If they, let's say there are certain spouse of critical skill permit holder that come to Ireland but doesn't meet the requirement, like their paperwork doesn't meet the requirements to get Stamp 1G. So the immigration give them Stamp 3 instead. Their benefit, of course, for spouse of employment permit holders, because they can work in Ireland. 1G, they can work without permit. Stamp 3, they can work, but they will need employment permits to work. And all these stamps can be renewable with condition as well. The next one, stamp 4, that's why I mentioned this before, why it's like a pathway for a lot of employees or even those non-EEA nationals that came here to Ireland and would like to get stamp 4. Why? I show you the categories first. Stamp 4 is for spouse or partners of Irish citizen or European nationals. Stamp 4 is also for non-EEA parents of the children who has Irish citizenship. Stamp 4 is also for the former employment permit holder. If you can remember from the slide that I showed the table, that if you hold the employment permit or your candidate, you probably have the candidate or employee that hold employment permit for a year and then, sorry, for 21 months, for example, and then they get stamp 4. Or even those who stay for 5 years on general employment permit, they get stamp 4. So these are another type. And also investor and entrepreneur can hold stamp 4 as well. Investor example would be those people that come to Ireland on immigrant investor program and they invest certain amount of money. So they will be able to hold stamp 4. Another case of long-term residence. So stamp 4 good thing is that you can work in Ireland and there is no employment permits required. So those who hold stamp 4 can work and there's no need to process the permit. So it's quicker, like they're already in here. And I actually, there's one of our partner company, recruitment company that only targeting either stamp 3 and stamp 4 and stamp 1G. So that's basically hiring locally. And it's renewable if they want to stay longer than the expiry date. So when I explain the condition of these stamps, I want to show you as well that who's to target when you want to hire someone from here, let's say from Ireland. You want to hire international talents that live in Ireland at the moment. It doesn't have to be graduates that hold stamp 1G only. It doesn't have to be spouse of the Irish citizen. It can be some other type as well. So these all types are all eligible to work and get stamp 1. Why you can target stamp 1? I give you example. Stamp 1 will be those who currently live in Ireland and hold employment permits. So it's most of the common case would be they currently working with a company and they're looking for a new job. Let's say you are on your LinkedIn browsing for profiles to or maybe you want to you hate hunting someone and you see a profile non-European and they might say that they're currently in Dublin or in Ireland. You can chat with them that like if they're working with another Irish employer at the moment and what kind of stamp they hold. If they say stamp 1, yes, that's the one to target. That's the most common one, like when they want to change jobs. So stamp 1 holder, employment permit holder. If they change employer, they will still be stamp 1. Most of the case, not all case. Another stamp holder that you can target, stamp 1G. Yes, this is the season. It's a very busy season indeed. From what I've been told, that there's a lot of graduates of bachelor degree, master, and students from PhD. And stamp 1G, again, like I explained to you before, spouse of critical skill permit holder, you can hire them and they don't need employment permit. Stamp 4, spouse or partners of Irish and EU national, you can hire them, like I mentioned before, or former employment permits investor and entrepreneur, you can hire those who hold stamp 4. They don't need employment permits. So stamp 1G and stamp 4 would be a little bit less hassle when you hire them. But I don't say that hiring stamp 1 would be a hassle, but it just needs employment permits to be sorted out. And I explained to you what needs to be done and what paperwork is included. Stamp 3, like I explained before, you can target them as well. They could be spouse of the permit holder. Now, you might know about this before, that, or you might have been processing this before as an employer, or you might have known the step for you before, for like, let's say you work with a team before about what's the step and procedures for processing the employment permits since the start, if the candidate's from abroad. So when you hire someone from abroad, the question is, how to start this? How do we start this? What documents should we check? And what kind of question that you want to ask the candidate from abroad? So first thing, very, very important, eligibility check. You have the role to offer them, and you are interviewing, and you might want to know, you might need to check if the role is eligible, and if it's eligible, what type of the permit that role would fit into. You want a high software engineer, you want a high healthcare assistant, you want a high home carer, you want to hire panel beater, you want to hire mechanical or bus driver. You need to check first if this role is eligible, and if yes, what type of permits. Why? Because you will be able to check the timeline for permit and visa process, so that you know the overall stages that would take. Another very, very important thing, visa requirements. You chat with the candidate, you know the role is eligible. Okay, it's critical skill, but will this candidate need visa to come to Ireland? Because if yes, there will be another process after the permit then. So you can talk with the candidate that, okay, you need employment permit, also you need the visa, you need to apply for the visa as well. I will share to you later on. It's a PDF file that show like 2 columns who needs visa, which nationality would need visa to come to Ireland. And these all reason here is for processing time, which is very crucial. So because there would be other steps that will need to get involved for relocating someone, home search, apartment search, accommodation, other process as well for onboarding the employee. So after you check the eligibility, and if it's all good to go, you want to hire this person, they accept the offer, document preparation. Now, I cannot put all of the documents, because otherwise going to be wall of text. So of course you will need documents and details from both employer and employee. So of course, employee personal detail, passport detail, certification of their education, of their experience from their previous job. Again, all roles are not the same when it comes to required documents. Chef, for example, our visa team has been going through this almost every month for a chef, that they will need extra amount of paperwork, not a huge load, but I think five more or 6 more for chef, like for their personal documents, so that they can submit the permit. For employer, you will need tax document, you will need business registration, you will need, very important thing is very detailed job description. So when you fill in the form of the permit application, it won't be rejected. You need to basically fill in the very detailed, the nature of work, scope of work, details of the salary, detail of the working hours, location as well. So there's tiny details, and but needs to be done properly. And if the role needs to be advertised, you need to prepare for this as well. I will explain this separately in the next couple of slides. And then if all's good, you apply and you submit. After the permit is approved, and if they need the visa to come into Ireland, like for example, Indian citizen or Thai or Philippines, they will need to go apply the visa. So as HR or recruiters or hiring manager or employer, you can guide them what needs to be required, not what needs to be prepared, sorry, for visa application. I gotta be honest with you that Irish immigration website is very, very useful, and it is very, very detailed when it comes to document preparation. And after that, you apply online, make appointments for the candidates, or they need to make appointment by themselves, and then you can book to go in to submit the paperwork at the consular, embassy, or visa office, and then you go there. After they arrive, this is very important. So they get the visa, but they need, I told you before, they need to go to one of the two places for IRP cards. So this is very important here. We got a lot of questions from this. They need to make appointments with the INIS, Irish Naturalization and Immigration Service. I call Irish Immigration. If their address is in Dublin, it has to be there. It will be along the Liffey, along the quay. If the address is outside Dublin, it has to be, let's say in Cork or Waterford or Wexford, they have to go to the police station in their area for applying for IRP cards. They will need to apply for PPS numbers so that they will not get emergency tax for so long. And yes, HR, I remember when I relocated here, that was a real pain as an employee, because it took me 5 weeks to get PPS number. And then you can set up the Irish bank account if you have PPS number. There are other alternative way though. There might be online Irish banking that would not need PPS number to get Irish bank account, so they can get paid to that account before they get PPS number. If you want to know, like I'll share to you later on about this one. So it's handy for HR to guide the employee as well, that like, okay, you can get this bank account set up so you get the Irish IBAN. And then public service card registration. So that's the PPS, we call PPS card, but it is the welfare, social welfare cards. So you can apply, the employee can apply that, make appointments, or else some place don't need appointments, you need to call them and check. Now that's someone from abroad. When you hire someone from abroad, what if you want to hire someone within Ireland? I go quickly here, I know that we careful with the time. If you want to hire someone from Ireland, again, after eligibility check, one important thing you need to ask them, what is the stamp that they are holding and what is the validity date? Because you don't want to hire a person that's overstay, or you know that they won't have time for process the permit. And we have the solution for that, that like they need to go to Irish immigration to ask for certain extension. You prepare documents and you submit for the employment permit. After you submit for employment permit, they can work straight away. They don't need to get the IRP, the new IRP card to set up. And then after they get the permit, then they can go to change their stamp if they need to, and also to update their stamp, extend their stamp to be the similar date to their employment permit that is just approved. I want to go to the next one here, which is very important, labor market needs taste. I go quickly, Aisha.
That's good. I have a number of questions, so that's great if you have time.
I know, I go very quick, 5 minutes here on the advertisements. Why we need why we need these advertisements. Quick one is designed for, I think I'm sure it's for striking the balance between meeting the needs of Irish employer for skilled worker from outside the European EEA zone, and also safeguarding the interest of domestic labor market. It's to ensure that there are no suitable Irish or European national available to fill in the particular job. It's also to protect the local employment as well, and to protect the interests of the Irish and European national in the labor market. And I'm sure that the government wants to balance the economic growth. That's why they have these labor market needs tests, just to ensure that the jobs are not straight away immediately outsourced for international talents. Do all applications need this? No. If the role is on critical skill list, the base salary is 64K per year or over. You won't need it if you have a support letter from the IDEA Ireland or Enterprise Ireland. You will not need it if the job offer is for carer of the special needs, medical needs, or that person has been giving the care before the permit is applied. You won't need is if that employee has been made redundant before, but they need letter from the DETE. How does the position needs to be advertised? So 3 places. On the long name here is the I call EUIS, shorter name jobsireland.com, 28 days. You have to advertise, national newspaper for 3 days, and local newspaper or jobs website like Indeed.com or other job website that's not Jobs Ireland. So what you need to be careful, once you post it, don't go back and touch it for 28 days. Because if you go back there and edit it, even at 1 word, that will be recounted as day 1 again. You will delay timeline, and it will cost you more. Why? Because you paid for national newspaper advertisement already. So that costs you probably like a couple of hundreds of euros. So you don't want to pay double or triple. We had the case there before, and last couple of months they posted before twice, and they just they need to post it again. So just make sure that all the ads are in good place, not too short, and has to be detailed. Required detail needs to be there. Last one before we start the Q&A is that I know that even you're not directly responsible for processing or paperwork, it's good to know, at least have initial insights or knowledge for the visa and permit requirements as you're the first point of contact. It allows you to provide accurate and valuable knowledge that that for the candidate, and save more time as well. So you won't lose your time to invest with someone who may not meet the immigration requirements. And that will lead to the second one here, that once you communicate clearly, you can set realistic expectation that like the timeline itself, and also what the steps are involved for a smoother hiring process. And you also know that like who's eligible for your clients, so that you can keep your clients to be compliant. And it's good to engage with global mobility team if you have one, and also immigration specialists, as they will keep up with the trends all the time. They have policy updated, announced for you, share with you for any change and the latest developments. And I will share this to you after the webinar for these accessing data. Eligible role, ineligible role, who needs a visa, who's not, what's the steps and procedure to change immigration status. A brief one, I share that with you. Aisha, I think I put the Q&A here.
Yes.
We got a lot of questions before the webinar. Thanks so much. All interesting question. Shall I start from this, Aisha?
You can indeed. Sorry, I think I dropped off there for a second. That's no problem at all. If you want to, like, I have a number of questions here that we can run through. If you want to start with a couple of the ones that you have already, that's great. And then I'll maybe give you one or two of the live ones we've received before we finish, if that's okay.
Right. Okay. Just bear with me, please.
No worries.
So, okay. How can
Well, actually, maybe I have a couple of ones that we could kind of put together, if that would help.
Yeah.
Okay, so there seems to be, I've had a number of questions. We've had a number of questions in around the renewal of visas, okay? And one question we received earlier on from Raquel was around critical skills for the partners. And do they also need to have a visa? And do they have to renew it? And how long that renewal takes? And we've had a couple of other questions around the renewals as well, around IRP and general overall renewals. So do you have any information on that timeline?
I do. Well, I do an update one as well. I started from a critical skill, for example. So again, when they can renew, yes, it reapplies, that's what it's called, because critical skill, if they don't want to apply for stamp 4, the employer can apply for them again for another application. So that's the processing time, though. It's different each week or day or month. You can check online. That's updated real time. That's the department who update that. You can search DETE processing time, and you will see that critical skill application. Now they're processing the application from the 1st of September. So that means, let's say, it would take 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But if there is a backlog, like end of last year, it could be 4 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, for example, depending on the timeline. IRP cards, my own experience from last month, I submitted the renewal. Surprisingly, very, very quick. I submitted last month, and I submit 17th of August. Sorry, no. Yeah, 17th of July. I submit 17th of July, and I got 18th of August. So that's very, very good.
Okay. Yeah.
I see it's less than a month. If you just count working days and business day, it's less than a month. So, which is very good. So I would recommend plan ahead for 2 months, and then you apply for that.
And then check obviously the processing time on the website as well. That's a really good tip.
Yes. Also, yes.
I have an anonymous question here, just in relation to the IRP card. So is there a delay in an individual receiving the IRP card, and can we still accept proof of appointment / renewal in order for them to continue working? So can they continue to work if they're still waiting the renewal of their IRP card?
Depends if the employment permit is still valid.
Okay.
Again, but if they get the appointment already, they can still working, and if the employment permit is valid and they get employment already, yes.
Okay, we'll do another couple before we finish up. So here's a question from Mary. She wonders what does de facto mean? So like a de facto relationship, and then how do they prove it?
Oh, okay. Long-term relationship.
Okay.
Yeah, that you don't have any paper, official paper. There's no marriage certificate. It's not civil union as well. Let's say boyfriend, girlfriend live together, have proof of funds, or joint account together, have enough evidence that show that they've been long-term relationship. Take longer time, take around 6 months to a year to get that visa to come in.
Okay. And actually, just on that, we have another anonymous question here. Does the stamp 4 de facto processing time seem to be 12 months currently? Is there any way to get them to expedite the process given that the time sensitivity for the applicant?
You mean like how to advise them how long it's going to take?
Or else, is there any way, or are there any tips you can give them in terms of helping to speed up that process?
oh, it's hard to speed up these
Mm,
because that depends on that's
okay.
Irish, yeah, and
Okay.
also the timeline as well, depending on the time. You can't actually speed up. Otherwise, if they get a job offer, the employer might have a letter to provide to the embassy. Again, that wouldn't guarantee that they will come in that the
Any
application.
faster.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so the next question I have is just in relation to the stamp one, if I can. So again, this is an anonymous question. If someone has held a stamp one for 21 months, but they fell ill and had to leave the company, can they still apply for stamp 4 because they have 24 months of work experience, even though they're no longer working for the same company? Or do they need to be employed by a company when applying for the stamp 4? I realize that's a little bit complicated and it might be you need to speak to that individual separately, but because it was unusual, I thought I'd ask you.
Yeah, I need to know more detail about that in terms of like what's that story with employments there. So I will get back to that question, of course. Yeah.
Okay, perfect, no problem. I have another question here. In terms of renewals from IRP, what if they don't have a permit, just an IRP card? Can they continue to work with the proof of the renewal? Again, as you said, that depends.
That depends. They have IRP, yes. What kind of stamp? Are they students? Are they spouse? Are they stamp 4 like myself? Or they stamp 3? So depends. They can renew if they don't need employment permits.
Okay, no problem. If somebody's on a stamp 1 visa and they want to change their employer after 12 months, can they go for a contract position for under 2 years?
They can, because sorry that I didn't mention that they can change employer only if they have been in the initial employment permit for 12 months. 12 months, they can change employer, yes. Okay.
Okay. Now another question here on the critical skills visa. So does a critical skills visa employee need to renew that visa after 2 years? And
sorry,
does a critical skills visa employee need to renew the visa after 2 years? And if they apply for stamp 4 after 21 months, do they need to renew the critical skills again after 2 years? That comes in from Arlene.
One sec. It's a bit, sorry. It's a bit, you asked me that again. I lost the.
Sorry, apologies. Does a critical skills visa employee need to renew the visa after 2 years? And then if they apply for stamp 4 after 21 months, do they still have to renew the critical skills visa again after 2 years?
Right. If they have stamp 4, there's no need for employment permit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that answers that. Okay. Nune, we have lots of questions and we could probably spend another hour actually answering all of these questions, which is fantastic. And it's such a topical, it's so topical, as you said, for our industry. And even some of the points that you made around the different sectors and the trends and even the countries that people are coming in on when we're hiring outside of Ireland. So listen, that has been really, really interesting. As I said, we could probably talk for another hour on this particular subject. What I would say to you is the slides are going to be made available on the ERF website this afternoon. Nune's details are shared on screen as well. And what we will do is we will try to get back to everybody for all of the questions that we have. So I just want to say before we finish up, thank you so much to Nune and to Visa First for facilitating this and hosting this very, very interesting webinar this morning. I've lots of questions myself, and I'll ping you a message afterwards. Thank you to Anna from the ERF, who's in the background, making sure that Zoom is working and making sure that everything was going okay. Obviously, thank you to the ERF Skillnet for facilitating this and organizing this webinar this morning. And thank you to you, all of our participants and all our attendees, everybody who joined us this morning. We hope you found that beneficial. And as I said, the slides and information will be available on the ERF website this afternoon.
And I would like to thank, I just see here in the chat before you go, just like to thank Evgenia, my colleague, that answered some questions there as well on the chat. So you might have some question answered there. So thanks, Evgenia, for that. And thanks everyone for joining. And thank you, Aisha, and also Anna and ERF for having me today.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everybody. Hannah, have a great Thursday. Take care.
Bye. Bye.